Hello everyone and welcome back to another secondary objective video. So today we're going to go through a review of the latest Games Workshop Open tournament that took place in Newport over the weekend. Firstly, because I'm really jealous I didn't go. I've got serious FOMO. It feels like it's been months since I last went to a tournament. It's been about 2 weeks, but it's too long. The second reason, we're going to review the top lists and the top placings that happened at Newport. And the main reason why is I've noticed a trend when some of these lists do well, you find they get copied by a lot of people who think, right, this is clearly going to be the skeleton key that unlocks my best tournament performance ever. So because of that, those lists become a lot more prevalent, which means the chances are that you guys might find yourselves playing against those lists, even if you're not playing against, the best people at the tournament. You just might see more of these lists coming around. So I thought it might be a really good idea for us to have a little look through, work out some of the best parts of the list, why they're working, what it is they do well, and also talk a little bit about what you can do against those lists to try and stop them doing their thing. Um, Before I get into that, if you could like the video, subscribe, leave comments, tell me what I'm doing wrong, tell me what I'm doing like semi okay, that would be great. I love speaking to everyone, and it's great to get feedback and try and improve as a channel. So yeah, let's get stuck in, shall we? With the magic of editing. And by editing, I've just clicked a button on OBS because I still don't know how to edit. No one's reached out to me really, apart from someone who offered to help me with Microsoft Paint, which I can actually do okay myself. But again, need serious help with editing over here. Let's start looking through some of these lists. Now, the winner, no shock, was Richard Siegler, and I'm sure a few people have seen that, of Art of War fame, who's come over to the UK and he's taken one of our biggest tournaments, won, and he's probably just chipped back off to the US again, which is frustrating. We need to do better as a country and as a nation. Before we go into Richard's list, on the actual breakdown of the overall event, what's really interesting is the breakdown of factions. You've seen a ton of Space Marines and a ton of Necrons. Neither of those are really represented in the top. Dark Angels obviously are, but we don't count them. Custodes, Dark Angels, and Orcs, we've had one of each of those in the top list. And then the rest of this, we haven't really seen many people until we've got to admech much further down. What Richard is really highlighting here is that repetition with a list and list knowledge is much more important than just taking the latest best thing, because you're far more likely to be successful if you've had those repetitions, if you understand the army, if you enjoy playing the army, than if you just pick up the next best thing. So really big fan of that. I love that he's done well with a list that maybe is not all that common at the moment. So Richard Siegler's admech list. He's running Lords of the Forge and Skitarii Hunter cohort together. He's running priority assets. And the list as a theme overall, I think the easiest way to explain it is it basically does everything really, really well. He has different sources that are going to give him reroll hits. They're going to give him +1 to hit. He gets the ability to advance and charge, advance and shoot. He can fall back and shoot. He can fall back and charge. He can do all kinds of crazy stuff. He basically does everything really, really well in a high OC army. It's an army that plays Warhammer and really rewards someone who can be a flexible general. And you can see this in his results because he smashed his way through the event. You can see his matchups on the right hand side. All of his scores are really high. His opponent's scores, for the most part, are actually pretty high too. But in a singles event, it doesn't really matter how high your opponents are. It just matters that you win your game. And in all of these games, he's clearly just played Warhammer really, really well and got the win. Now, the list is it's a mix of mostly kind of infantry units and Skitarii-esque kind of profiles. So he's got Inquisitor Draxus and a Skitarii Marshal attached to a unit of Skitarii Vanguard, a Tech Priest Manipulus attached to another unit of Skitarii Vanguard, Belisarius Cool and Thulia Gould. I think that's how you pronounce their names. We'll come on to what they do in a minute. 2 dedicated transport Scorpius Doom Riders. Then he's got a unit of Iron Strider Ballistari, commonly known as chickens or las cannon chickens, Taraxi Skystalkers, 3 units of Servitor Battleglades, a unit of Sicarian Infiltrators, and then 2 Scorpius Disintegrators. And when you look at this, nothing there is particularly scary. I mean, it's just a couple of tanks, a couple of infantry units, some characters, and you think, oh, it's not that bad, is it? Then you come on to the rules. So let's start with the actual army rule itself. So for those of you that don't know, which is probably everyone, because hardly anyone plays admech, Adeptus Mechanicus at the start of the battle round get to pick from one of these doctrina imperatives. And they're broken down as you can either give every model in your army heavy, +1 ballistic skill, and -1 to hit in combat if they're battle line or they're within 6 inches of a battle line unit. Alternately, you can give all their ranged weapons assault, improve their weapon skill by 1, and then when they make an attack, if they're within 6 inches of battle line or battle line themselves, they improve the AP of their weapons by 1. So it's an interesting mix, and again, it leans into that kind of flexibility where you look at your army and say, "What do I need this turn? Do I need to be hitting better in melee? Do I need to be hitting better in combat, in shooting?" And you can decide what you want to pick. And then the way that Richard has built his army actually pushes into that more. And what I mean by that is you first have the Skitarii Hunter cohort, gives anything that's Skitarii infantry, mounted, or Einstrider Ballistari stealth all the time, which is really handy. I play Kroot mainly, and having stealth is actually more useful than you think because it means you don't have to worry too much about cover. You just place your units, you've still got stealth. On the enhancement side of things, the only enhancement that Richard has from this side of things is the Cantic Thrall Net, which you put on a Skitarii Marshal, and at the start of the battle round, you select a Skitarii unit within 12 inches, and they get both Protector and Conqueror Imperative. So back to that theme of they can do everything. That means, just to be clear, for 25 points, you're giving a unit heavy, assault, +1 ballistic skill, +1 weapon skill, -1 to hit in combat, and +1 AP. That's a pretty good use of 25 points. Now, he has some stratagems, which we're going to kind of come back to in a minute. He also has the Lord of the Forge detachment, and this is the detachment that buffs Tech Priests. All that really does is it buffs Belisarius Call and Thulia Guild, because what it gives them is a 4+ invulnerable save. They have that anyway, and a Feel No Pain 5+, which means that those models basically become mini Catan. And because they're a huge part of how this army functions, you want them to be as survivable as possible. If they do die, they fall apart. There was one game I played against a friend at a tournament where I had the Avatar Arcane, and I luckily managed to do his, 12-inch shot, hit a sustained, get a load of D6 wounds through, and I just killed Belisarius Cool, and his army just folded. So it's really important that you protect your tech priest. It also gives them like an extra rule here, which basically allows them to select an enemy vehicle unit and make it take a battle shock test, or allow them to make a range attack and still stay hidden. It's okay. You're really taking this attachment for that first rule at the top. And in terms of enhancements, the only enhancement that Richard took from this side is the TL409, which is ridiculous. It's 3 shots, hitting on 2, strength 11, AP2, D3+2 damage, 24-inch range, dev wounds. It's like one of the best gun profiles in the game. So 30 points is fair enough. And to fire that out and randomly kill some big things is quite important. In terms of the stratagems that are important here, so there's a few. The first one is you can give a Sicarian, Taraxi, or Sidonian unit Feel No Pain 5+, which makes them surprisingly durable when they have stealth and -1 to hit. The second enhancement that's kind of good is you can pick 2 Skitarii units from your army, and to the end of the phase, they get an extra AP, which stacks with the Conqueror Imperative, I believe it is, that gives them an extra AP as well. So suddenly they're getting +2 AP, which is pretty strong. They can only target 1 enemy unit, but it means that that unit is probably going to die. And then the other detachment, the other stratagem, sorry, that I'm going to point out is Isolate and Destroy, which allows you to pick a Sicarian, Taraxi, Sidonian, Einstrider Ballistari, or Skitarii mounted unit. And if there's no enemy units within 6 inches of the unit that's targeted by them, you get +1 to wound, which is pretty good. Because between all of the buffs we mentioned at the start and giving +1 to wound, +1 AP, you can make just regular Skitarii do some really intense damage. On the Lords of the Forge side, there's a couple of things in here. One of the ones that is quite interesting is Overloaded Safeguards, which allows that tech brace unit to still be able to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which they fell back. Or alternately, start an action and they can still shoot. So again, we're going back to that theme of let's just let our entire army do all the things no matter what happens. You can't tie them up, you can't stop them. They're always going to be able to go off and do their stuff. Let's lean into that even more, shall we? So just to quickly highlight, Belisarius Call has a ton of rules. He's got really good attacks, really good shooting, melee. His defensive profile is really good. He's tough as 8, 2 up, 4 up with 10 wounds. In this detachment, he's also got a 5+ Feel No Pain, which makes him really difficult. But his really strong rule is actually going to be this Invocation Machine Vengeance, which, to break it down, it's basically Oath of Moment. The Belisarius called himself is lone op. He gives out Oath of Moment. He regens wounds, and he's a mini Catan. This guy's a nightmare to kill, and you see that if you go back and watch the stream games, you can see a lot of the time Richard is using Belisarius Call quite aggressively to go off and kill units and do actions and all kinds of stuff. This is further exacerbated by Thulia Gould, who's basically the same as Belisarius, but instead, she's going to pick units and either give them the ability to declare a charge, shoot and declare a charge when they advance, shoot and declare a charge when they fall back, or again, pick another unit that gets both Conqueror and Protective Imperative. So it's even more leaning into that ability of let's just do all the things all the time. You can't stop me. You're just going to have to kill me. And there's one more unit that is going to lean into that same thing, and it's this Servitor Battleclade. Now, when you look at the Servitor Battleclade, you're like, oh, it's just a load of toughness for 4 up, 6 up guys. Like, they're not a problem, right? Oh, wait, but they can do actions in a turn in which they advance, or shoot in a turn in which they started an action. So, again, with 3 units of these guys, you're never losing any efficiency in your list because you can always do actions, shoot, fall back and shoot, charge and shoot, just do everything. It's a really strong army. It's not natively really powerful. What it actually relies on is you being a really good general, and I think Richard has demonstrated that. I really like this. This is exactly the type of army that I want to play. It's why I play Crute, because you have to think. You can't just, rely on pure damage to just blow your opponent away. How do you stop this? So, bear in mind, you can't tie this army up. It's always going to be able to fall back, shoot and charge, do loads of damage. You actually have to almost treat it a bit like you were playing against Eldari or Tau. Those armies love to just go off and do their thing and not really interact with the opponent until they want to interact. Like they want to dictate the flow of the battle. With admech, if you're the person that can be the aggressor and really force problems and questions on your opponent, that's when this army starts to fall apart. So the way that you deal with this list is you kind of smooth brain it and you say to your opponent, well, you're going to do all the stuff all the time. I'm just going to murder you. You have to full send and really cause problems for that admech player. Otherwise, they're going to slowly pick you apart, score loads of points, and probably just win the game based on playing Warhammer. That's my take on Richard's list. Now we can move on to some of the other lists that came into the top places. We've got Patrick Harrison, who went 7-1 with his Drukhari. He made it into the final, also against Richard. It was a great game to watch on stream. Drukhari is interesting because we've not seen many of them in play at the moment. But one of the things Drukhari are really good at doing is taking down some of the other meta lists in the game right now, such as Dark Angels, which I've already done a video on. It's the one with all the speeders. Drukhari love that. They can take those apart quite easily. Patrick Harrison has taken a mixture of Sky Splinter Assault and Exhibition of Slaughter, and he's playing this in Reconnaissance. His list is Lilith Hesperax attached to Witches, which is no surprise to anyone, an Archon attached to Incubi, Drazar attached to Incubi, which I love. I've not seen Drazar in a while, but he's probably my favourite model and character lore-wise in the whole game. Lady Malice attached to Incubi, Succubus attached to Witches, so that's 5 bricks of models with characters attached that are all going to do big damage. And for the rest of the army, it's 2 units of Witches, 2 Raiders, 4 Venoms, a unit of Mandrakes, a unit of Reavers, and 2 Scourges of heavy weapons, both of which are Dark Lance Scourges. So this list is relatively straightforward to see what it does. So the Scourges are going to sit back. They're going to kill any vehicle that kind of pokes its head out with Dark Lances with rerolls from their abilities. The Mandrakes, their idea is to kind of cause problems. They can go up and down, score secondaries, they can screen out whatever they need to do. They're not a big damage dealers. The Reavers are probably similar. They can surprisingly do some good damage with like the Heat Lance that they have, for example, but typically they're really fast. Their role is to skirmish, take out small units, or just to do actions. And then we go back to these big bricks. So the Venoms allow you to split units down. So what likely the way that Patrick is doing this is he's taking some of these big units of Witches with characters attached, and most of the damage is coming from the characters. So he's probably looking to split out the Witches so they can become action units or screening units or skirmishing, whatever they need to do. And he may even potentially be splitting some of these Incubi down because he has 3 units of Incubi here and only 2 Raiders. One of these is likely getting split into 2 as well. Or they may be on foot and they may be getting deep striked in or brought in from reserves, through strat reserves. It depends, but he has the option there to do that should he wish to. The way that this army plays is, let's head back to the army rules. So, Drukhari get power from pain. What this basically means is you get pain tokens as an additional resource each turn that you can spend on doing cool stuff. The way that those tokens are generated is you get one token at the start of your command phase no matter what, a pain token every time an enemy unit is destroyed, and a pain token each time an enemy unit fails a battle shock test. The way that that combines with his detachments is we have Sky Splinter Assault, which is each time a Drukhari unit from your army disembarks from a transport, of which he has 6 transports. Until the end of the turn, their ranged weapons get Ignor's cover, and their melee weapons get Lance. This is massive for Drukhari because, especially for things like witches and incubi, they don't have the highest strength weapons. So giving them +1 to wound allows them to punch up into big targets. So really important. He's also then running Exhibition of Slaughter. So this is just for basically buffs witches only. All witch cults melee attacks get lethal hits against non-monster and vehicles, which for exactly the same reason, really important. Their strength isn't really high, so it allows them to punch into targets that otherwise they might not be able to do. I'm not going to go into too much detail around these, but in essence, the way that this list plays, it's really, really fast. It does an awful lot of damage really quickly, but it also stops you or your opponent from interacting with you because it has abilities like Vect to increase CP cost. It has the ability to go in and out of transports like Venoms or Raiders. The Witches are really good at that. They can also reactive move by like running off into different directions, for example, when at the end of combats or again back into vehicles. And then if we actually go down to Exhibition of Slaughter, they can do things such as still do actions when they advance or make fallback move. So in a similar way to Rich's list, this is a ton of bodies that does a lot of damage, but also it's really hard to interact with for all of these combos of abilities. If you watch Patrick play it, you can see some really interesting things he does in terms of using transports aggressively to then go off and kill units and make them uninteractable afterwards. It's a tough list. The way that you deal with this, again, is actually really similar to Richard's list too. These Drukhari units are very, very fragile, but they put out a lot of damage. So if they get to pick when they're going to fight, they're probably going to take your army apart. If you can dictate to them when they fight, that is something they don't like. So in a similar way, what you really want to be doing with Drukhari is attacking them in their side of the board rather than letting them come to you. And that way you're going to cause some difficult problems for them because they're going to fall apart even to, strength 4, AP 0 melee weapons. And that's the way that you really want to try and deal with these fast, scary units. So that's Patrick's list. We then have I believe Tom came 4th place. We have Tom Godfrey, who is a lovely guy. I've met him many a times at tournaments, and he has one of the most beautiful painted orc armies. On top of that, he's also a really good player, as evidence from his results. So Tom got to the semi-finals before dropping down again. There was a chance he won the whole thing. Tom is running orcs in Take and Hold, and unlike the others we've seen so far, Tom is just running a 3 detachment point war horde army. It's classic orcs, right? Again, I'm not going to go too much into orcs because I feel like war horde has been around an awful lot. I did make a video on orcs but different detachments the other day, so please go back and check it out. But war horde, in essence, it means that all your orcs do a ton of damage on the war turn whenever they charge. Whenever orcs get into melee, they're going to smash it to bits, which is a pretty cool list to have, right? Tom's list is Gazgov Thraka, a Pain Boy attached to 20 boys, which makes them really difficult to kill because the Pain Boy gives them a feel no pain. He's got a Beast Boss attached to Beast Snagger Boys, another Beast Boss attached to Beast Snagger Boys, a War Boss attached to Breaker Boys, and then a Beast Boss on Squigosaur attached to Squighog Boys. So we're seeing a similar theme to Patrick's list, where in this case Tom has got 5 really big hammer units here that can go out and probably kill most things in the game. If it's in the war, definitely most things in the game. The rest of the list, he's got surprisingly 3 more characters. It's Boss Snickrot, who goes up and down and is lone up. Got Mozrog Scragbad, who in this case is basically a solo, quite a scary, tough character that's going to go around and cause problems for people. And then Wazdaka Gutsmech, who's the new chap on the motorbike, super fast, hits really hard to screen out from anything that you're trying to do. Tom then has 3 trucks, likely to field some of these units up here. Things like the Beast Boss with the Beast Snagger Boys, and probably the War Boss with the Breaker Boys as well. And then to supplement those, Tom's also included 5 flash kits and 2 units of Gretchen. The Gretchen probably to hold objectives and give them CP. The flash kits are quite good if they're in a truck as well, and there's probably room with the one with the breaker boys. They can shoot out of the top and get some good benefits from staying safe inside there. So Tom's list, again, if you watch it on stream, it's really focused around staging up, and then when the turn is right, it's having a really big go turn to score big points and try and take out some of the really scary stuff in the opponent's army before they can take you out, whilst at the same time being surprisingly durable. Especially Gaz's unit is a nightmare to chew through, and you can't ignore it. And what you'll find happens a lot with this list is when Tom does go and kill something with Gazgo on the boys, you can't ignore them. You have to kill that unit, but you have to put a ton of firepower in. What that means is you probably always lose the unit, but it means the rest of your army is untouched. So you'll find that in a way, you almost get 2 whole turns of War because Gazgul takes up all of that ability to die. You then find that the other units still get to activate and go off and do some big damage. So Tom did really well. What's cool about this too is that running Warhorde is different to what everyone else on the internet is currently running. Everyone else is running equatorial hordes and freebooter crews typically. So I love that Tom has found his niche. He's picking a list that he knows work. He's got a ton of repetition, and again is evidencing a bit like Richard at the start that if you put a ton of reps in and you use a very similar list and you learn how it works, you're going to get really good results. So Tom, I think off the back of this, has won a golden ticket. So looking forward to hanging out with him in Barcelona later this year. And then the last 2 lists, I'm going to kind of combo these together because both of these guys are running Adeptus Custodes. So they're kind of similar, even though the detachments are actually quite different. The lists are like, relatively similar because they're Custodes and they've only got so many data sheets. So it's Will Leach and Stephen Box. Both of them went 6-2, which is pretty awesome at an event this big. I love Will's list name here. Will is basically telling you that he's never played this list before, and depending on when you read the title, you're going to be one of his first to 8th games in here. So the fact that Will has managed to go 6-2 is huge. So Will was running Lions of the Emperor and Might of the Moritoi. If we swap to Steve's list, Steve was running Shield Host and Thranatoi Hammerblow. So quite different. Shield Host is the traditional Adeptus Custodes list detachment from 10th, where they get crit 5s. The Lions list is the one where instead they get +1 to hit and +1 to wound if they're outside 6 inches of other units. They're a very different style of list. Now, Will's is a Blade Champion and Custodian Wardens. So that's a really durable unit that's focused on the Blade Champ, allowing them to advance and charge, and the Feel No Pain from the Wardens, making them really hard to kill. There's a Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jet Bike with Virtus Praetors. Another Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jet Bike with Virtus Praetors. Both of those units hit really hard and are a nightmare to kill, especially combined with the Shield Captain's once per game ability to move after fighting. And then Will is, in the nicest way, being a scumbag. He's running 2 units of 5 Alaris Custodians, which again are a real problem at the moment to kill because they're so tough and so durable. They sit on objectives and just say, I'm not going to die. 2 units of Venatari Custodians. These are the guys that can rapid ingress for free. So you can keep them off the board and just bring them in where you want, ready to safely attack your opponent. And a unit of Witch Shakers, no doubt their job is to hold your home objective, to screen out all the kind of boring stuff, to allow all of these other angry Custodes to go off and kill. Let's look at Steve's list and compare. So Steve is running Trajan and 5 Custodian Wardens. So similar thing to the Blade Champion, but these guys can't advance and charge. Instead, they slowly walk up the table and just beat everything to death whilst not dying. He's then got a Blade Champion with a unit of Custodian Guard. So a bit different. The Custodian Guard are a bit more lethal than the Wardens because of their reroll ability for objectives. But the Blade Champ still allows them to advance and charge, advance and shoot, which they get anyway because they have Assault, but advance and do stuff. Steve then also has a Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jet Bike with Virtus Praetors, so common theme. Must be a pretty good unit. And then Steve is being even more of a scumbag because instead of running 2 units of Alaris Custodians, he's got 3 units. Only actually 1 more Alaris than Will because he's got 2 units of 3 here. 2 units of 3. But it's still frustrating to deal with because they stay tough. And then lastly, a unit of Venatari Custodians with 6 models in. So a bigger brick, but this one then is more likely to kill stuff. So kind of similar list. The fact they've both gone 6 and 2 is interesting. I think Custodes at the moment are in a really good place. They're quite durable. They're able to walk onto objectives and just try and survive in places where other armies wouldn't. One thing that's interesting to point out is that there's some slightly different choices in terms of the war gear here. So if you look at Will's Alaris Custodian, they've all got the same weapon. Steve has actually threaded in a random Castellan axe or a spear into different units here for different reasons. And my understanding as to why is it's to do with the way that wound pools work now. So what normally happens is you roll all your attacks together, roll all the saves together, and then if there are different save profiles in the unit, the save of like the invulnerable character, for example, will come at the end. And what that kind of means is it's really hard to kill 4+ invulnerable save characters in one activation of attacks. Because chances are all the regular guys will die to all of the first Alara spears, and then the 4-ups all just get saved by that character at the end. By having different weapon profiles, what it actually means is you can split those out. So you can smash all the regular guys with the Alara spears to start with, and then at the end, you've got one axe left that can try and just chop that character down off their regular saves instead. Or the reverse with this unit at the top that's gone with 4 axes and 1 spear. So it just allows you to manipulate those roles a little bit better, and it's a really interesting kind of tip there that I'm sure if you were to look at the Vanguard Tactics coaching website, there's probably going to be more tips like that on there too. So I think there's a kind of common theme here if we're to go back from this. All of these lists are running big bricks of characters. They've all got a couple of core hammer units that are out there to go and kill. They've all then got like a smattering of objective pieces or like secondary kind of objective pieces, secondary objectives. But there's not a crazy amount. So interestingly, 11th, it seems to be a lot more lethal than 10th, and you can probably focus a bit more on killing your opponent before you go off and start doing actions and objectives and that kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see if that trend continues. It's great to see some of these lists do well. It'll be interesting to see what the new balanced data slate brings us, and whether these guys make any changes. So thank you for watching. If you made it all the way through, again, I'd love to hear any comments if you have them. Don't forget your secondary objective.